Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Crowded Booth here on a Wednesday night. A lot of news hitting the waves as we get ready to talk Bill Belichick being hired by North Carolina. Does this make sense? What's the opportunity to win at North Carolina? We'll dive into that, and then we'll each kind of give a way too early look at some of the playoff games. Again, matchups we like, not a full preview, but just kind of tease it a little bit more than we did on Sunday night. That and more on tonight's episode here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome in. Happy Wednesday evening as we get ready to rock and roll here. As my name is Bryce Koon. Welcome along. As I've got Will Manis alongside me. Ralph doing his due diligence. Ralph playing the role of Santa Claus this holiday season. Make sure he gets the packages.
Easy now.
Well, it's
easy.
He's playing the role of Santa Claus. He's doing a good job. He's doing good. Ralph on the road with UPS, hashtag not an ad, but doing a good job. And I'm sure he'll probably not tune into this later. Will, how are you doing on this Wednesday evening?
I'm tired. It's been a long week. It's starting the days are starting to drag. We get into December, and it seems like, funny how it coincides with the ending of college football season where the days seem to start to drag. If you are unfortunate like me and have to work a real job, it is awful. Sitting at a desk feels
also
like
it gets dark at like 4:45. So
yeah.
Is that depressing? Do you have a window where you are?
I do have a window because it doesn't get dark till almost 6 o'clock in Columbus.
Oh, okay. See, over here, that's the one thing about Central Time Zone is like it's like 4:45 and the sun's going down, and you're like, "What is this?" Interesting though. Interesting stuff. Yeah, I look. I remember being in school around this time of year, and first off, I wasn't productive in school no matter what. But once you got back from Thanksgiving break, there's not a chance that I was ever going to be productive. Finals, I guess finals are wrapping up for a lot of people, and they may already have, but it is. Gavin says time zones are dead. They could be. Matt says, as Belichick says, I misinterpreted the rules. We're going to talk a little bit about that here tonight. I do want to talk about this real quick. Will, the transfer portal. We're going to do some content on the transfer portal here in the next couple of weeks. What's your opinion early on? Nothing specific. Goldfellow does say about time UNC got some young blood in there after that old man Mac Brown. Don't disrespect Mac Brown, college football legend. What's your thoughts on the portal though? Like just way too early thoughts because it's only been officially two days now, I guess, or 3 days.
College football free agency. I mean, that's what it is. It's a lot of guys that are starting at successful programs at whatever they're at their position and are jumping in the portal to see what they can get. And all power to them. I'm not hating the player. I'm hating the game for sure because it's just mind blowing to me to see starters at positions at really good programs that are competing for conference titles for playoff spots. They're jumping ship, thinking they can get a better situation. Still yet to see even some guys that have changed places. I'm not totally sure that they're in a better situation than the one they left. So, like I said, it's only been 2 days. It's still very early. There's still a lot has changed just today. Just in the last 2 hours. So everything is fluid.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it, I think. I was talking with someone about 2 hours ago about this, and I was like, the thing, especially when you try to plan content around it, like you and I were talking last night, we'll dive into kind of maybe, later what Auburn's has, but you kind of have to like set some guidelines for yourself. It's like, okay, we know visits are going to happen then. Now, the thing is now, is a visit going to happen and immediately change someone's mind? Or is it going to be a situation where, and just all honesty, is it going to be a situation where they're going to take 3 or 4 visits and then maybe they sit on that for a little bit and they like to take the whole time? Because for a reminder for people, the portal window is open But as long as your name is in the portal, it doesn't mean that the portal then closes, and you don't be on a team. You just have to enter your name into the portal during that time frame. And then obviously, I mean, with the season extending until January the 20th, I mean, it's crazy. But I wanted to ask you this before we kind of dive into the Bill Belichick and the UNC stuff. The big story right now in the portal, it kind of feels like, is Darian Menza. And that's a guy where, a lot of media down here have covered him. And I was talking with someone today. It was like, it's more of a shock because when you go through the timeline of what Tulane did, okay, so they play the conference title game. I don't want to say Tulane had a bad season. They didn't end the way they wanted to. Kind of the bad loss to Memphis, and then really kind of getting, for lack of better words, kind of punked, up against Army and just physically dominated. But, they have the team meeting. There's questions, is Sumrall, and this kind of parlays into what we're going to talk about, is Sumrall going to be the go-to option for UNC? A lot of people felt like, hey, that's their number one guy they want to go after. It doesn't end up happening. Sumrall kind of makes this public declaration on social media that he's coming back, and I love when it's like, I'm not leaving. He tweets that out. And then, he interviews you, and I kind of talked about that, I don't want to say touchy, like pseudo press conference he did. But then they have the team meeting, and Darian Menza, the star quarterback for the team that, by the way, beat out a former 5-star to get that job, 4 or 5-star, says, I'm leaving. And by the way, within 4 days, he's already at a home Duke basketball game, already got the pictures taken, and he's already committed. So I know that's a long way of saying, like, that's kind of the big story. It does show that these agents are kind of playing it like free agency, and they're listening to teams where the player officially cannot. I don't know how you create rules for when agents are involved. It feels like it really opens up to true free agency.
Yeah, I mean, and he was the guy I was hinting at. Is Duke really a better spot than Tulane?
They play next fall, which is going to be fun.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. But you think about the ACC, you saw how hard it is to win that conference. And, if Tulane finishes strong, they probably win the American, and they're possibly looking at an at-large bid for the playoff. With the way everything shook out, I think they would have just missed out. But it would be hard to deny a 13-0 team no matter what conference they were in. But just seeing how competitive the ACC was and how hard it was to win, is it really a better situation? Is the roster around him really going to be better? It's hard to say. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see if he was kind of the catalyst for more guys to leave Tulane and more guys to head to Duke. Very well could be. But it was that one. That one was the big shock. And he goes, it would have made sense to go to maybe an SEC or a Big Ten school, maybe even a Big 12 school.
Yeah.
But to go to Duke, I think was the real surprise. I mean, Duke had a great season. They went 9-3, and like I said, a really good conference. The ACC, still a power conference. As of now, still a power conference. I got to poke. Poke.
Herb's not here to stick up for him. But
hey, if you don't know about Herb, check him out. If you want a Florida State podcast, check out Herb.
You touched on this, and we could go super far into this kind of thing, but it's a weird year for Duke, right? Actually, like, what'd you say?
I think Herb does all the ACC. Just the last one that I came across on his YouTube channel was about Florida State.
Yeah, Herb FM. Duke, in all seriousness, it's a weird year. Like, they go 9-3 in a big transition year. Very good record. They're going to play in a solid bowl game, but I think they're playing Ole Miss in the Gator Bowl. Is that what they're playing? Or one of the Florida Bowls they're playing down there, I believe.
Playing Ole Miss.
Yeah. So Duke has a crazy season. Their starting quarterback, who wasn't electric, but he wasn't bad, Malik Murphy, enters the portal, and then they go get probably, maybe the best. No, I could be slipping. I could be not thinking. We're live here. Best G5 quarterback this year? I don't know. I'm trying to.
I would agree. I would go a step further and say he was the best quarterback in the portal. So I think Duke made an upgrade here at quarterback, and that's no disrespect to Malik Murphy, because Malik Murphy was very good for them. He's in the portal now as well. Got some visits lined up already. Got to see where he lands, but I had Mensa as number one.
He's good, man.
Based off what he showed at Tulane. And
Gavin says Bryson Daly's better than Mensa.
You're exactly right, Gavin.
It is. All right, let's talk a little bit now about the the Bill Belichick to North Carolina. And this is something that obviously had kind of been like brewing, and you hear reports about it and all this kind of stuff. We knew they visited with him. And I'll be honest with you, like, just shoot you straight, I kind of thought this was a situation where, like, he's just a name. And then I started to read some stuff, like where the UNC insiders, and they were like, that was pretty much the consensus, that there was a list. Belichick was kind of on that list to provide some brand value. Not that I don't think UNC needs brand value, but to provide that. And then after people started to kind of fall off the wagon, per se, in terms of coaching candidates, it was like, okay, he might actually be one. They meet with him. He has some demands, what he wants to do. He goes on the Pat McAfee show and kind of details like his pitch to be a college coach. What's your initial reaction? Because I've got some thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours first, because I don't know. It's non-UNC fans are kind of like, this is the biggest joke of all time. Some UNC fans feel the same way, and then some are like, maybe this is what we need. This feels weird to me. I think just weird is the word that I kind of just I label this with.
Yeah, it's strange. It's coming out of left field. I was kind of like you when his name was floated out there. I was thinking, there's no way they're not going to hire him. They're talking to him. Maybe they want to consult with him and, try to figure out how they can do better as a program. I mean, obviously his football mind, his organizational skills. I mean, to be the head coach of an NFL team for 24 years is, in this day and age, never going to happen again.
Yeah.
Won 6 Super Bowls. So you cannot doubt what he knows about the game and what he knows about leadership and how to lead a program. But I was like, there's no way. I mean, there's just no way they're going to hire him. But, he gives them his 400-page book, novel, essentially, on what he wants to do and how he wants to shape it. Yeah, manifesto, how he wants to shape it. And, if I was a UNC fan, I'd be pretty excited about it, because it feels going and getting Bill Belichick shows that you're serious, but not in the way that I think a lot of that, like, your first thought of being serious, right? Like, they're trying to completely overhaul their football program and set it up for the next coach, or maybe the coach after the next coach, to really have success and really compete in this new age of college football. I mean, it's basically the NFL at this point. So you go get a guy that was a head coach and an executive at the same time, which probably won't ever happen again either. It's really unprecedented. And I think UNC is hiring Bill Belichick to set themselves up for big time success in 5 or 10 years. Obviously the age factor of Belichick, he's 71, 72. He's not your long-term answer. Curious to see if his son really is going to be the head coach in waiting.
Yeah, that's
Steve, who look, when Arizona hired him, when Jed Fish hired him, or not Arizona, at Washington, I was like, this is weird. I mean, he's never coached college either, but Washington's defense was really good. I think they finished top 25, I think, in total defense in the country. So he really turned their defense around and made them dominant. So there'll be some on-field success, I think, but I think UNC is shooting for the stars and trying to win really big.
Nancy said his son is supposedly to be the coach that follows him, part of his deal. And look, he did a great job, by the way, with Washington this year. He took them from bad to about average to good in terms of their statistical categories on his side of the football. I think here's where I sit with this, and this is going to step on some toes, but UNC is constantly referred to as a sleeping giant because of their academic status, their ability to be the flagship university of their state. That's just what it is. And the brand value. Now, a lot of that comes from the Michael Jordan, the Jordan brand, the UNC, the basketball. And I get that. So they're constantly, when you talk about conference realignment, you see the Florida States, the Miamis, the Clemson, but you also see UNC in there because of that reason. So I think,
and who doesn't love Carolina blue?
Oh God. I mean, I'm a UNC hoops fan just because of that. I mean, I love it. It's awesome. But I think my biggest concern, Will, is that this is a program that is like the only thing that they're best in or they're tops in at UNC is being at the top of a list that says sleeping giant. Like they're constantly at that. They've got a lot of money. They've got all this kind of stuff. We've obviously kind of heard that maybe alignment is something. I was reading some stuff that alignment's not the best there in terms of, just how this coaching search went. If you kind of read behind the lines of how this coaching search went, you've got board members stepping out from under the umbrella of the president to go make calls. And it's just, now that happens everywhere. I just want people to know that, but it's more public in this sense. I think it's not the recruiting aspect that scares me in this. It's not, it's more of just, this feels like, and you said it, it feels like a level of seriousness, but I worry, is it so different from what the status quo is that it's going to make it unserious? Like, are they trying to go too far in one direction, too much to an extreme here, to where it's like going to look laughable? And I worry about that, because I do believe, look, I think UNC is a sleeping giant. I think they've got the resources. If they can ever get everything aligned there, they are a team that can be a perennial playoff contender. I mean, they can be that. When you look at the fundamental things that have to happen for a program to be that, they have that. Mac Brown, to me, was, there's obviously some disagreement on when he wanted to step down and stuff like that. I mean, the guy comes out and says he's going to be the head coach, and then turns around and 2 days later he's being fired or let go. With Belichick, it's just like, what's the plan here? Because he's an older guy. I guess he's not going to go after his NFL wins record now with this. Like, I guess that kind of like nixes that. But I just get the feeling like, is it too much to the extreme that it's not going to work? Because you think about like all the things you need in a program. I don't know. I go back to it. It just feels weird. And I don't know if I love it, but I don't think it's a complete joke. And I want people to hear, like, I don't think it's a complete joke, a laughing stock. It might turn out to be that way. It just feels weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate it, because, like you said, and I agree with you. I think North Carolina can be very, very good in football, and they need somebody to come in and really overhaul it. Like, I think that they took a look and said, we're doing something wrong, and we need to make a total 180 if we really want to be competitive and not get left behind in what college football is now. And I think that's what they're doing. And, I saw Nancy, she asked, do you think he'll be good in recruiting? I don't know. Can he go hire some great recruiters underneath him, guys that really know how to recruit? And can he be a closer? I mean, that's the big question. It's all about recruiting. And NIL, can he do that? But they're certainly going to attract a different type of athlete, right? They're going to attract somebody who is dead set and dead serious on going to the NFL. And who better to go play under and learn under and how to get there than Bill Belichick? So, I mean, for me, I think it's a good hire. Obviously it's any hire. If it works, it's great. They're going to look like geniuses. If not, they're going to be the laughing stock. But if they can get that infrastructure in place that he wants, that he laid out for them, they're going to be successful, whether he's going to be the head coach or not.
And I'll add this too. If you have never read this book, and I know, Will, you like to read kind of the sports biographies and stuff like that, like, you should go read Belichick and Brady, and it gives you kind of an insight on like roster building. And I know that was 20 years ago, but I wonder, because we saw towards the end of Belichick's tenure in New England, the player evaluation had slipped in terms of like, that to me is like, if you go off that, what I'm talking about in that book, and you read the book, you read kind of, how he did things and how he liked to value different spots. Part of me believes that, look, if we go to full revenue sharing in college football, if we go to something like a, salary cap system, maybe that's where he can provide expertise. But it feels like that should be more of like an advisor, like a special advisor role, and then the head coach role or a GM role. I mean, that's my concern, because towards the end it got really bad in terms of like roster evaluation. Is that the Bill Belichick are we going to see? Or because we're kind of entering the infant stages of this new age of college football, does it revert back to the early 2000s when the guy was dang good? And look, they cut some really good players in New England, and they still found ways to win. That's a question to me.
And I wonder too about, maybe the last 5, 6, 7 years of his time in New England, how much did his ego get in the way? Right. And I think, essentially being fired and having to sit out, maybe what has that done to his ego? I mean, has he changed a little bit? Is he willing to adapt where he wasn't at the time? And maybe for good reason, because the guy's won 6 Super Bowls. I mean, these are all hypotheticals that obviously we don't know the answers to.
Yeah.
Only the UNC people that decided to write him a check know those answers, and we'll have to see it play out.
I thought this was interesting too, and I was reading some stuff, and this is kind of where I also sit with this as we kind of wrap the Bill Belichick UNC story up. UNC feels like they've tried everything, right? So let's go back to when they hired Larry Fedora, and it was this high-flying offense. It was a lot of pizzazz. And look, they did good. They were finished top 10 in one of the playoff rankings towards the end. And then obviously he's no longer there. They bring back Mac Brown, and Mac Brown has 2 NFL quarterbacks, and they don't really get over the hump. I know Georgia Tech fans will love that, but they don't really get over the hump, and they can't do this. So, just in the last decade, they've done so much. And you look at the back of the history, just 8 conference titles for this program, and they're one of the longest tenured, college football programs in the country. They just haven't had a lot of success. And so my question is, and I'll ask this to you and we can move along, but it feels weird. It kind of feels like a desperate hire to get this program some momentum. If this does not work at UNC, I don't know what will. Like, I feel like they have tried just about everything. I get that it's maybe in some people's idea, it's just Mac Brown 2.0. I think people are just looking at age, honestly, and saying that. But in all honesty, if this doesn't work in Chapel Hill, like if Bill Belichick doesn't work, a guy who's going to have a literal whole wing of the Hall of Fame in Canton to him, I don't know what does work there, and it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, if this doesn't work, you certainly got to go to the other end of the extreme and go like the Arizona State route and find, maybe a young alum that's 32 years old and just inject life into the program. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think weird's the best way to put it, but looking at it from maybe a 30,000 foot view, I think they're trying to set themselves up and set themselves apart and be different and try to compete. They obviously don't have the resources that, these big programs that are in the playoffs and have been in the playoffs since its inception, even in their own conference. I say resources, not just money. I think are there facilities? Their football facilities.
They just upgraded. They literally just upgraded. Yeah.
I was going to say they might be behind. So I think they're ramping up and really targeting 5-10 years down the road.
Mm-hmm. I'll end it with this, and we can get to some of the comments that people had on it. I think this is straight up a move. UNC is making a desperate move to inject life into a program that is a sleeping giant. This is either going to do 2 things. It's going to bring them to the cusp of the playoff, or it's going to set them back a decade. It's going to do 1 or 2 things. This feels like a big move.
If they get everything, if they get everything in the background like he wants, I don't see how. If it's not him as the coach, but if they do all those things, I don't know how they'll be set back. Because honestly, it's
fair.
But they got to do it right, and I think it'll be more telling that they didn't do it right if they still can't be successful.
I agree. Goldfellas says, I think Bill isn't a serious hire. If you want to be great, find someone like Chadwell. Belichick has no experience in college. The lack of experience in college would concern me 10 years ago. I think when, Will, you mentioned this kind of lead off, now that you've got kind of a pseudo-pro model, it comes back to what I said. We kind of answered this. And if the player evaluation is like it was the last 3 years in New England, then it's going to be a problem. If not, then maybe we'll see. And also, there's good high school football in North Carolina that they can go get some guys and be able to be a part of that. Vince Wilkes says this conference ain't big enough for 2 coaches wearing cutoff hoodies. I like that. Clayton says Belichick is the guy you hire to try at least garner the interest to win a championship, even though the odds are very slim. Definitely a shooting for the stars hire. No, okay. On the wins record, it's very possible that Belichick has 1 good season. He leaves the NFL for the record. I did read, Will, that he was very, I don't even know, frustrated, I guess disappointed in the interest that he received. Obviously, we know he interviewed for the Falcons job, but outside of that, really wasn't talked about as a legitimate candidate. Could you see this being a straight-up situation of He's like, his son's name's Steve. Oh, right. Steve Belichick,
Yep.
is that what it is? Yeah. Where he brings in Steve to be the DC, who does have experience at the college level. Let's say they go 8-4, 7-5 next season, and he takes off for an NFL job and Steve takes over. Like, could you straight up see that being the situation where he just gives the keys over to Steve and tries to go get that wins record? Or is he bought into UNC?
No, I mean, I don't know if you come with a 400-page manifesto, it's hard to argue that you're not bought in. But no, I mean, he's an NFL coach. I mean, we've seen there are two different types of coaches. There's college coaches, NFL coaches. Belichick's obviously an NFL coach. So that's his next goal. And like you said, the frustration with the lack of interest from the NFL. And he's been on TV trying to improve that, trying to gain interest, and it just hasn't worked. So now he's taking a shot at college and certainly bringing his son in as head coach in waiting. He's expecting some calls.
Breaking news: Florida State just landed Thomas Castellanos out of the portal. So
not a surprise. He'd been predicted there. Although my first thought would be Miami, just because he and Cam Ward are close, and Cam Ward would do some recruiting for Miami, but I guess not. Castellanos will be fun in that Gus Malzahn, Mike Norvell hybrid offense that they're going to run, which, Norvell's offense based in Malzahn's hurry up, no huddle style.
Yeah, no, it is. It'll be interesting. Nancy says it piques everyone's interest. At the very least, will it appeal to players? I think that's obviously the big question we got to see. Luke says people need to chill on all the hype. Geez, I don't think that we've been hyping. We've just been kind of talking about the topic, really. Gavin says, I don't see Bill going in home with anybody. Goldfellow says, Bill couldn't get along with grown men. Imagine with some of the drama of college kids. That will be something interesting to see in terms of that. But if you get guys that are bought in, I don't know.
He's going to attract a atypical high school athlete, right? Somebody that is very focused on their future, I think, and very driven to go to the NFL.
Maybe we could call it something like, maybe Bill Belichick comes in, he calls it something like a UNC man or a Tar Heel man. And I don't know. And like maybe they make their entire brand identity around being a Tar Heel man, what it means to be a Tar Heel. I don't know. Just a thought. Jones said high school kids are not playing for Bill. Well, they will have to because they can't fill out the roster with entirely transfer portal players. Maybe he'll be more GM, the son coach. That could obviously be that. Sid Irish says, I don't get this hire, but what do I know? What do any of us know? We know that we don't know nobody. That's for sure. Gavin says this, and who knows how true this is. Not sure if y'all saw, but Glenn Schumann talked with UNC during the interview process. Schumann is going to be a head coach somewhere. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know where. Luke says, I've seen the hype all over X. I mean, we're not hyping it. We're just more talking about it. Just,
Well, I'll say I'm excited about it just because it's something different, right? He's bringing a completely different approach, and UNC's had a football program for a long time and have had success at various times, but it feels like he's starting over, and UNC is completely starting from scratch their football program. So that's what excites me about it.
Yeah, Dr. Bob says Carolina was desperate. He believes that Diaz and Doran have pulled ahead. I think the argument against that, Dr. Bob, would be that UNC is a place, and I know people get tired of hearing this, but it's a place where, like, if you get it right, you can be 2 or 3 steps ahead of either in-state program there. That's in terms of football. Zach says destined for failure, says as fire a 73-year-old for a 72-year-old. A lot of comments, and we won't get to some of the last ones, but it is interesting to see. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Will and I are going to talk about maybe just some of the games we're excited to watch next weekend in terms of the college football playoff. We won't get into the full previews, but just maybe some sneaky things to look at going forward. That and more when we come back here on the Crowded Booth.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
I can't wait to go to Cook's when I get back for the Christmas holiday. It's going to be a good time. Haven't had an
I haven't had a Cook's hot dog in too long.
Yeah, you're right. We hadn't done it. We got to do it. Maybe we do a show there during Christmas.
We should throw it back. That's a throwback.
That's a throwback. A throwback episode live from Cook's. That would be awesome. It'd be a lot of fun.
Got to push it back to 3:00. We don't want people oversleeping.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're not wrong about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the plead the fifth. Let's just talk a little bit about some of these playoff games. We, look at the CFP practice. In fact, you aren't even coming back to Columbus. Yeah, I got to.
You're going to Birmingham.
State College, PA, and then Birmingham, he says. I would love to. All right, college football playoff bracket preview, Will. We're going to go more. So next Monday, we're going to really preview the games. And then Wednesday, we're going to go be live. And we're really going to kind of each give our bracket projection. How do we see this whole thing playing out in terms of that? But I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I'll just kind of say this. Like, I think a sneaky matchup. I'm intrigued to see what Clemson can do on the road against Texas. And I don't know if it's recency bias of us watching them, but for the first 3 quarters, 2.5 maybe, they really out-physicaled SMU. And you could see the difference in terms of the roster of what they put on the table in terms of guys that they had up front. But, Will, we've seen the recipe to beat Texas is to get to Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning. Clemson's got the dudes to kind of do what Georgia does up front. And I think that's probably my biggest matchup and my biggest thing to watch. And funny enough, it's the 12-5 game, which is even crazier. But I don't know. I'm not predicting Clemson to win right now. Maybe you are, but I just think that's kind of one of the more intriguing matchups in the playoff to watch because I kind of think in a weird way, Clemson might match up well. And I haven't done a deep dive into it, but they might match up well with Texas, especially in the physicality department.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is a really bad draw for Texas. I mean, we've said it all year. We hadn't talked about Clemson every week, obviously, but their front seven is one of the best in the country, and that's going to be a problem for Texas. And if Georgia's the worst matchup in the country for Texas, I think Clemson's number 2 because I think both that Georgia defense and Clemson defense are built nearly the same way. I mean, it starts in the front seven with both of those defenses. And, Clemson, if they can get to Quinn Ewers, I think Ewers' health still might be an issue playing with that bum ankle. Mm-hmm. Obviously hindering his mobility, which really hurt him against Georgia. And if he's still not 100%, it's going to hurt him against Clemson. And, to me, that's the big matchup. I mean, if Clemson can get pressure on Quinn Ewers has shown that he is mortal. I mean, when you get pressure on him, which, people keep saying that, but I'm like, yeah, that's any quarterback. but Ewers, for all the hype on Quinn Ewers, he just really, really missed some big throws, some easy throws against Georgia in that SEC championship game. Dr. Bob says, can Clemson score? Yeah, they just scored 34 to win a conference championship.
That's true.
If they can keep Klubnik upright, also, and Klubnik, I think his running ability, it will be a big X factor in this game, which I think was, pretty muted this season. I mean, it didn't seem like he ran a whole lot, but the runs he did get were key. In fact, I saw a Clemson fan on Twitter posted his run against Pitt to put them ahead in the fourth quarter, of like calling it a winning, season saving, maybe program turnaround point for Clemson to get them back into national title contention every year. For opening weekend, I think that's the game I'm most excited about, the opening round, I should say.
I think another thing, too, is to watch is Texas's defense against Clemson. And Dr. Bob does bring up, can Clemson score? Texas, and he says Texas' defense is great, too. They're very good. And to me, I don't know what the early lines on this are, but you might want to look at the under in this game. Like, I feel like this could be a physical football game where both teams, have to make maybe an explosive play. Maybe there's a bust in the defense, but they're going to have to do something
with the spread.
What'd you say?
I thought you made a banner with the spread.
Well, more. Yeah, we did make a banner for the spread. I was more of going for what's the over under in this one. That's one I was more
Let's
looking.
see. I'm pulling up betonline.ag if you want to
Yeah, check them out.
get on this train, big dog. Is it going to work? I'm clicking it. Nothing's happening.
Well, I'll say this while you'll find it. My question is can Cade Klubnik win a game with his arm? And I think that's going to be the big storyline for Clemson in this first round and this whole playoffs is I think that Texas can stop Clemson's rush attack to where he's going to have to go make some throws that he has not made consistently in his career yet. And that's my big MO. That's my big question mark in this. Clemson can win this game, but can you win it? And can Cade Klubnik, can he make those throws that he has at times and he's flashed the potential, but can he put it together for a full 60? Because now you're at the point where everybody's talented enough, just to, nobody can just show up and win. And you're going to have to prove that maybe your weakness isn't as bad as it is to be able to win. And I'm not saying Klubnik's the weakness, but I think a downfield consistent passing attack for Clemson's not their strong suit, definitely. And that for me kind of stands out in this. So I think that's kind of where I sit with that one, just in terms of that game. Just a theme. We'll get to more of the preview and the picks on next Monday. You got that over under?
Yep. And the spread. Over under is 51, which I'm not too surprised at.
Yeah.
But the spread is shocking. Texas is an 11-point favorite.
I think Clemson's defense is good enough to cover. I think they are. I'll just say this. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if Clemson can win outright. I do think they can cover in this one. I would feel comfortable taking Clemson plus 11.5 in this. Gavin says we want the Mantis Sloan spread in the over-under. Clemson showed fight late in that SMU game. Goldfellow says he's taking Clemson to cover. Sid Irish says it should be a 21-17-ish game. And, I could see something. Like, I could see a game where it's, like, honestly, like the SEC championship, where it's just, like, kind of not sloppy. Both defenses are playing really tough and something like that. Should be interesting. Well, when you look at the rest of that bracket, what else you like?
Obviously, SMU at Penn State. A whiteout for a noon kick. How about that?
I hate this as a noon kick.
Noon kick. I mean, you got that game. Obviously, I'm going to be paying close attention to Notre Dame and Indiana, right? The 7-10 matchup. But did you see the broadcast stat on that game? It'll be the first time in at least 20 years. I'm obviously forgetting the number that NBC has not had the broadcast at Notre Dame.
Wow.
The first time since like the 90s. First time for ESPN to broadcast a game in decades at Notre Dame. I mean, we're obviously going to watch all the games. I think the one everybody's paying the most attention to is Tennessee, Ohio State. I really think Tennessee's built to beat Ohio State.
I got a hot take for you. I think Tennessee's a better version of Michigan.
Ooh.
I think they can run the ball really well. Dylan Sampson's very, very good. And I think defensively they've grown over the past couple of years to where they can suffocate you. I think they're a little bit more explosive version than Michigan. I think they got a better offensive line, better running back, better quarterback. But I think that we've seen, and we talked about this in the beginning of the season, Will, we have seen Tennessee transform itself from the hype or hurry up, if you want to call it, with, obviously the guys they had in Hendon Hooker and those kind of guys. They can play some smash mouth football. And
they do on both sides of the ball.
On both sides of the ball. Ohio State's offensive line is still beat up, and I don't think Ryan Day and Chip Kelly trust Will Howard fully. And I think we saw that in the Michigan game.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Dr. Bob, Penn State will bully SMU. We're talking about James
Kevin
Franklin.
Jennings is going to have to play a really good game.
We're talking about James Franklin.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kevin Jennings is the X factor. I mean, he's like a magician. I mean, there's been so many times this year where that pocket just collapses on him. He spins out of there and
creates.
Nobody knows how he gets out of the pocket and keeps his eyes open downfield and makes a throw downfield, which a lot of quarterbacks don't do, especially young quarterbacks like him. Obviously, he's got a whole season of experience now, but if Penn State can't get Kevin Jennings on the ground, this is going to be a really fun game and could turn into a shootout like the Big Ten title game. And that game, a bit of an anomaly. That's really the only time all season Penn State scored and scored with a team, right? They've scored, but they do it in blowout fashion. Mm-hmm. And they showed that they can go back and forth a little bit. I mean, only losing that game by 8, I think, is a big accomplishment for them, especially, one that turned into a shootout. But I think that game's going to surprise a lot of people because I think there's not been a ton of people that have watched SMU this year.
We were on the sideline and I looked at you and said, all right, here's that magic that they've seemingly found at different times this year. And Jennings can make big plays. I'll be honest with you. As much as I love SMU, my big concern is that can they hang around enough? And I know there was a 17-point advantage for Clemson and they came back. But my worry is if this one gets ugly early, I don't know if you can play from behind on the road against that Penn State defense, down 3-4 scores type of thing. Now, if they can keep it within I'll say this, if they keep it within a 2-possession ball game in the fourth quarter, they've got a shot. I think they've really got a good shot to win the game.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, Penn State, a 9-point favorite, so obviously a strong, healthy favorite at home. Not really a surprise. I would hate for SMU season to end in the way that it has with 2 straight losses. It'd be hard to watch.
Yeah, it would be hard to watch. It would be tough. They've done a good job. Sid Irish says that Rhett Lashley has impressed me. I think he's impressed a lot of people nationally. So it is. It
hasn't impressed me. But you know why?
Because you already knew.
I already knew.
You already knew. You already were aware. Dr. Bob says Tennessee fans may take over the shoe. He also says, and Dr. Bob Tim says,
Dr. Bob, that's a felony.
You can't do that. That's you know what? I want your thoughts on that. So, Ohio State legislation. We're going to end the show with this. Let me get the graphic made. Or not the graphic. Our graphics guys, I don't know what he's doing. Flag planting a felony. Okay, let's end the show with this. This is the softest thing I have ever seen. It is one thing to say it's not sportsmanlike. We can have that debate. We can completely have that debate within the scope of college football. Is it good sportsmanship to do that? Okay. Making it a federal crime is
it'll be a state crime, but
they may. Who knows? They may escalate this thing all the way to the federal level. Who knows? I guarantee you they will, because somebody will say, well, we're just going to appeal that and we're going to take it up to the Supreme Court. I can't wait to watch how our country is going to be just flooded with flag planting schemes. In all seriousness, is this not the softest thing you've ever seen?
Absolutely. I mean, Ohio State, there's a reason. Now, Dave Portnoy, a lot of people don't like him, but I think one of his best shticks ever is calling Ryan Day third base, because he's born on third base and has done nothing with it. Obviously Dave Portnoy, a Michigan fan, but just everything about Ohio State, it just since Ryan Day's become the head coach, it's just been soft. I mean, he said it after the game. It's like, well, I don't really know what happened, but I know our guys aren't going to let somebody come in here and plant a flag on our field. You had 4 quarters to make sure that didn't happen, right? I mean, it blows my mind. And you talk about, is it sportsmanship? I don't really care. And I don't think it's bad sportsmanship. I mean, to be honest, they came into your house and embarrassed you. And that's the icing. That's part of the embarrassment. That's icing on the cake. And, you use the example all the time about baseball. You don't want a dude bat flipping on you, strike him out. Make a better pitch. If you don't want somebody playing the flag on your field,
don't do it.
Beat them. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I agree with Sid Irish. He goes, our government, or they, I don't know, they have bigger problems. Yeah, they do. Way bigger problems than just this. Clayton says, with Ohio State being a public university, they probably can't restrict free speech. This could very well go to the Supreme Court. I don't know. The whole thing is, and Clayton also says, can't wait for this to be sued in Supreme Court. Like, what are we doing? Like, if that's what legislation we need right now, what are we doing as a country? And look, we don't get political here on the show ever, but this is. And Clayton gets it right here. You don't want to get tackled, juke the guy and fall over. Hashtag the juke.
Yeah,
that is amazing. But
I
no,
mean,
look, why is it about, what are we doing?
I mean, there's soon to be federal legislation on NIL with I'm not getting political. This is just a fact, reality. With the Republicans gaining control of the Senate, Ted Cruz, whichever the committee is, because they've got a million of them, he now becomes the ranking member as a Republican. Yeah. He said that first order of business, he and Tommy Tuberville, former Auburn coach, senator from Alabama, are writing a bill to put some federal legislation onto NIL and try to make some rules. So that's where our country's at. That they have made that a priority.
College football is more important than our country. I think that's what we've come to think. Smoke Dotterbob says if Tennessee can't plant a flag, maybe Smokey will relieve himself on the O. Win the game, you can't be insulted. Right. You know what, Sid? You might have just become the new favorite person here on the show because that's very true. If you just win, we've been saying just win the game, stop worrying about stuff like that, and move on with your life.
Doctor, maybe I mean, and we know this will happen because we saw it. Peruna will relieve. Is her? I want to say Peruna.
I have no clue.
The SMU pony will relieve itself on in Beaver Stadium.
Clayton says, "Screw it." The coach of the national championship becomes president for the next year. That would be wild.
Could you imagine if Bill Belichick was the president?
Be interesting. That's for sure. Be interesting. That's for sure. Man,
you won't have to worry about Hugh Freeze becoming president. So,
oh God. Well, 47 minutes, 28 seconds. We made it without any mention of the Auburn Tigers. Gonna be great stuff. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you tuning in. Lots of good college football content coming all winter, spring long, including some coaching interviews we're going to line up in the early spring. What did you say?
Clayton. I said nice, Clayton. We won't throw it up, but nice.
Yes. Sid says not Auburn. Which accent does Brian Kelly use if he is the president? I have no clue. He was chief of church and waiting. President Key 2025. Great stuff. Great stuff. What a great audience. We love you. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come hang out with us each and every single Monday and Wednesday night. We are live. And then obviously check out all the pre-recorded content as well that we got going on. Oh, and by the way, we do have we're going to link it down below. We do have a crowded booth Bowl Mania Pick'em against the spread. So what we can do is you join and see if you can beat us. You're probably going to be are people going to be able to beat you?
No, I'm coming back. I had my eyes set on Bowl Mania the whole time.
That's the whole time. That's what it was. And that's crazy. Clayton, my fellow Americans in the Obama voice.
Gavin, you're lucky that I don't have the power to delete comments.
Yeah, wild. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on all those social media platforms as well. Ralph was in the comments earlier. We need to get this before we get out of it. Did you see what he was talking about? Ralph hurt himself again. And he goes, I did tune in, 125K a day. He busted his knee, and then he fell in the yard and landed on the driveway. Hashtag rip Ralph's knee. Good grief. Good grief. And as always, Clayton says Auburn sucks. We'll catch you next time.
Clayton, you are not breaking news here.
Not breaking news. Will's been saying it, honestly, since last spring. He's in fairness. But we'll see.
All but 1 week. There was 1 week where I thought Auburn didn't suck. Boy, was I wrong. Very wrong. Very, very wrong. Vince Wilkes says, oh no, hashtag Wreck-It Ralph. Literally. Literally. That's good stuff. All right, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure to follow us on all those social media channels and follow us on the YouTube channel. Like the video as well. It helps us in the algorithm. We'll catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.